Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Altar of Stars. I'm very grateful that you found your way here. My name is Teagan West. I'm a ritualist, astrologer, drum maker, and ancestral lineage healing practitioner on Haudenosaunee land, so-called upstate New York. And my own ancestors come from Ireland, Syria, Lebanon, Sicily, and Anishinaabe territory in what is now known as Canada. And my ancestors are a big part of my work and the readings that I offer here. So they're a synthesis of astrology and divination, but also animism and land connectedness to form this kind of intersection of cultural repair through these ancestral knowledge systems. And so if you like what I share here, you can find my work over on SUBSTACK at the Altar of Stars, where there's a pretty big archive at this point of weekly astrology readings in the form of podcasts that I've been sharing for a couple years, as well as tarot spreads and different ancestral rituals for each of the Wheel of the Year holidays or the new and full moons every month. So find me over there if you're interested in going deeper. But yeah, I hope that you enjoy this reading, and if you ever desire to work together one-on-one, there's opportunities to do that. You can find the links for that in the show notes. But yeah, enjoy, take good care of yourselves, my friends. Thanks for being here. Welcome back to the Altar of Stars. This little reading here is going to focus mainly on the new moon in Gemini that's occurring on Sunday, June 14th at 10:54 p.m. Eastern Time, a good nighttime new moon, which if we're lucky, that means the sky will be kind of spooky and dark with no luminary lighting the way. And so there are a few things leading up to the new moon in Gemini that feel important. I'll touch on them in this little reading. But if you want the full week ahead for the week of June 7th leading up to the new moon itself, you can find that over on SUBSTACK at the Altar of Stars. These are my little abbreviated versions for the time being, and every once in a while, I think maybe like once a month, I'll post a longer kind of look at the month ahead, astrologically speaking. So the one thing I want to know that I did touch on last week is that on Tuesday, June 9th, we have the Venus-Jupiter Benefic Conjunction happening at 25 degrees of Cancer. The fixed star Procyon will be in the mix here. And this is just such a beautiful moment to reap what we've sown. And specifically kind of like gather up the accumulated merits of Jupiter having moved through exaltation in Cancer for the past year. And this moment, this conjunction where Venus comes up with Jupiter in the sky at that point of 25 degrees of Cancer, this is like the ultimate opportunity to break open the piñata, as it were, and receive all of those blessings, but to specifically direct them accordingly. And if you're listening to this before June 9th, my recommendation is to be very intentional with how you use this energy. If you choose to ritualize it, if you choose to bring it into a magical working, make sure to be specific. Because the thing about Jupiter in general is that Jupiter's an amplifier, right? He's got the Midas touch. Whatever Jupiter blesses will grow in multitudes. And Jupiter can be kind of non-discriminatory in what receives that blessing. And the important piece to note there is if there are conditions in our life, especially in the Cancer part of the chart, that are being touched by this 25-degree conjunction, it's like wherever the attention goes, the energy will flow. And so we can use that in our favor by being very precise and intentional with how we choose to direct it. Many of you have heard that I'll be hosting a community-wide donation-based ritual on June 9th. If you're seeing this in time, please do join us. I'll put the details in the show notes. But yeah, the heart of it is, this energy of exaltation for any planet represents a point of like the ultimate gifts and principles of that planetary power can express itself to the utmost degree. But that also indicates a kind of excess, right? anything is prone to excess. When we have even too much of a good thing is not always a good thing, right? And so with Jupiter in particular, the principle of expansion and boundlessness and optimism and idealism and the amplifying exponential growth that Jupiter affords, all of those themes are over-functioning, really. And we have seen this. I really do appreciate some of the reflections around the politics of, what has been happening throughout the course of Jupiter moving through exaltation, knowing that that is also the natal placement for the so-called United States of America's birth chart. To me, there's a real implication there of like idealistic nationalism and the values or moral attitudes of the Cancerian principle that are like home and hearth and family to a degree that gets blown out of proportion, to where now we have a bunch of white European settlers, immigrants, that have created this so-called United States of America and are now choosing to control who has access to systems of care, which is totally removed from actual logical context. It's a formulated ideology that we are all functioning within under the guise of white supremacist attitudes. And so there are shadow elements to how any exaltation, but especially, Jupiter being the planet of amplification, that's where it can manifest a little out of balance, right? And anything that's out of balance, anything that is not in moderation and in its place of center, can afford both blessings and burdens. So all of that to say, if you have any placements at 25 degrees of the cardinal signs, right? Anything at 25 degrees of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, or Cancer, this conjunction is significant for you, my friend. And also, I would also make a case to say 25 degrees of the water signs, Cancer or Pisces or Scorpio, because those points are also being touched by this conjunction, this benefic conjunction in aspect. So we want to think about how do we want to use that in our favor. And it's really helpful with conjunctions to consider, like in this case, what house is ruled by Cancer? What are the themes of that place? What have you been gathering up over the past year throughout that part of your life? Where have there been boons? Where have there been merits that you've been afforded? That's what we want to gather up and say, thank you for these blessings. May they be instilled into the workings for the years to come. May we catch the grace of those blessings and actually anchor them into something that can carry us through whatever lies ahead, right? A lot of the messages and metaphors that have been coming up for me around the conjunction itself is it's water in the desert. Especially literally, so much of the astrology surrounding the conjunction is a lot of air and fire element. And so this last moment is where we find the oasis and get to drink from its preciousness, its sanctity, and take that in and receive it. And what I thought was kind of cute was when I was doing divination on this, camel came up. And I just thought that was such a perfect animal medicine to represent the conjunction, because like water in the desert, the camel is gathering resources. It's literally gathering water to move through a very arid, dry, temperate, very air and fire in the desert and ether. And so the camel has stored those resources in its back. And that is what I'm suggesting is available to us here with the conjunction moment itself. It's how do you want to catch the accumulated blessings of that water and anchor it into something that can be like the camel using resource to navigate whatever might come, right? There's a long journey ahead. That's for damn sure. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do feel that that's it's like a little gift from the planetary powers. Gather this up, right? There's blessings here. So I've gone on about that enough, but that's on Tuesday, June 9th. And that's an important moment. It's one of the big moments of the year where we get to direct that intentionally and really receive the gifts that have become available to us there. And I want to mention too that Procyon's in the mix, and Procyon's an interesting one to be in the mix because Procyon's the little dog star. It's Canis Minor. It's a star in Canis Minor that really in some ways announces the forthcoming arrival of the big dog star Sirius in the sky, right? So Procyon rises before Sirius and kind of heralds its arrival. And these Canis Minor and Canis Major are the two, the hounds of Orion. They're the two dogs of Orion. So they are heralding the arrival of the hunter. And there's so much I could get into mythologically there, but the heart of it really with Procyon being conjunct the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, or yeah, say that a million times. They're all together. They're all in the fold of one another, right? And Procyon as the one who heralds, the one who announces. This is the little dog that kind of like hits the ground running. It's very enthusiastic. It gives us the boost and the push that we need to move forward into whatever's to come, right? It's like the oomph of courage that we need to get us to actually do the damn thing. But the trick with Procyon is actually staying with it, finding the staying power, the sustenance to keep that enthusiasm long term. That's our work, right? Procyon will give us the little nudge that we need and throw us in, right? Like the fool finally taking the step into the unknown. But our work is then in sustaining that flame, which is a theme that's come up repeatedly this year. And so even in the mix of this benefic moment, it's the reminder of like, yes, you're being afforded these blessings, but you also have to participate. You also have to stay with it and make sure that you can carry that creative willpower long term, right? And that I think that is part of it too, is like Procyon is offering us the blessing of protection around our workings. It's saying like, okay, I will call in the helping spirits, I will call in the benevolent forces and the favor of those protectors, because that's actually the talismanic power of Procyon, is bringing in those protective forces, calling them close, calling good counsel, right? And specifically shielding our workings, our visions, our goals from malefic intent, from unhelpful witchcraft, or, you know, I think of that as evil eye from people that might be jealous or not so keen to see our successes, right? It allows for a bit of cloaking around what it is that we're seeking to do. So there's this preciousness, I feel. It's like we're gathering up the resources, we're instilling them and like whispering our visions for what is to come and how we might carry it forward. And we're also like keeping, we have the grace and protection of those good neighbors, as my ancestors call them, the helpful spirits, the benevolent ones, to shield and cloak us so that our workings can stay precious while they're still stirring and building. And so this might actually be something that's burgeoning from within with this conjunction that we're realizing, wow, okay, there's something I want to build or birth or bring into the world, right? This is Cancer. So much about that creative birthing mechanism as we're giving life to things and centering them in our world. Procyon's like, I'm going to keep you covered while you do that work until you're ready to really share it. And even then, if we really intentionally work with the talismanic power of Orion, of Procyon, that's interesting. Maybe something about Orion too. Orion's story is a little less benevolent. But yeah, we can bring that into our working for long-term gain and protection. So to all of you out there that are dabbling in magical work, consider Procyon talisman. The stone traditionally is agate. So, and yarrow is one of the plants, which I love. Some shapeshifter magic there. So I want to come to the Gemini new moon that's occurring on Sunday, June 14th at 10:54 p.m. Eastern Time. It's interesting. The new moon itself isn't making many aspects. It's kind of, sun and moon will be together, but there's not a lot of exact or super close applied aspects to it. It will be ruled by Mercury in Cancer, and this is the tricky thing that I want to say. This new moon in Gemini sits at the tipping point. It is the threshold point in many ways into the next half of the year, where there's a lot more of like the second wave of change that's coming, if not just like continual deepening of the change that's already here, right? And so as we tip into the second half of the year, the new moon in Gemini is like a marker moment to say, really the message that came through was like, let us clear the slate of our conscience. Clear the canvas of our conscience so we can create from an authentic and kind of like ingenious place. And this is right around, like, the new moon itself is also the threshold point where Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow. And that felt really important to me. I'm like, okay, at the end of the month, Mercury is going to station retrograde in Cancer at 26 degrees of Cancer on Procyon. Crazy. Literally on Procyon, like right where this Benefic Conjunction is happening this week. Mercury's going to station retrograde right there. The messenger and Procyon are going to take us then backwards and retrace our steps. So this week and this new moon in Gemini is the territory that we will return to throughout Mercury's retrograde period. And for me, there was like a real sense of invitation to welcome the benevolence of the trickster. Because so often the trickster's feared, so often even retrogrades are seen in this kind of like terrifying light, or, we're like expecting everything to go wrong, but we don't also give really abundant credit to the ways that retrogrades help us to see things clearly. It's like a little hanged man moment where we can see things from a different angle. And that's just as important for actually knowing what it is that we're dealing with and what it is that we are setting out to do. It's a funny thing. It feels to me like a little bit of the implication of how humans like to have control and like to think that we know everything and have the whole picture. And to me, retrogrades are the reminder that we don't, and we never have, and we never will. And so we need a little wake-up call sometimes to remember that there's a whole ecosystem around any given thing that we're working on, and there's many different ways to look at it. All of it holds really necessary information. And the trickster knows that doing things backwards and interrupting the normal series of events is sometimes the only thing that will get us out of our own way and, wake us up. Really humble us. That's what I'm saying. Is like the trickster is here to humble us. The trickster is here to remind us that we are not gods, that we are actually in service to the bigger powers that afford us so much support in this life. It's humbling. And I felt from this particular new moon moment with Mercury entering its shadow period, it's like, pay close attention on this new moon and of course the weeks to come, but on the new moon itself is like, what's up for you in this moment? Because that's the territory through which you'll return. Again, the Cancer house. The Cancer part of the chart is getting so much attention right now, especially the third decan of Cancer, where the Benefic Conjunction and Mercury stationing retrograde is occurring. 25, 26 degrees, right? Right on Procyon. That's just so amazing to me. And so, it's humbling. It's like, all right, rather than fighting against this and just casting it as though it's a bad thing, what happens, what opens up when I actually welcome the chaos of the trickster? I welcome the humbling. I welcome the invitation to say, like, I don't know. You show me. I don't know everything. I don't have the full picture. Help me to see clearly. Help me to see what I can't see. And so in a way, it's like really celebrating the trickster's medicine and like being willing to be backwards for a while, you know, like to do things the wrong way so that we can get clear, get right. I really like, I felt the joy and the giggles when I saw that. I'm like, ooh, they want us to play. They want us to stop taking ourselves so seriously. It's an invitation to like get a little funky with it, you know? Yeah, and also in some ways it's an invitation to become the trickster ourselves. Rather than sit and like resist that. That's the thing, is resisting it usually makes it worse. In some of the ceremonies in our community, there's individuals that purposefully take on the role of the trickster to fuck with everyone else. And when you resist it, it's much more challenging to make it through the ceremony. But when you welcome it in and play with it and like let it help you to not take things so seriously, that's where all the possibility opens up. That's where you're able to see things in a new way. It's like the hanged man becomes the fool. That, I feel, if we flip the hangman on his head upside right, they become the fool. And that is moving from the clean slate of the conscience in many ways. Like, not taking ourselves so damn seriously. So, I feel that in this, I sat with it and around how to ritualize the new moon in Gemini. It's happening in the evening, so I actually think that there's a really beautiful opportunity to like clear something that night. At least on Turtle Island time, it'll be happening in the evening hours. And so under the dark sky, the moonless sky, right? It feels like that's the opportunity to shed, to get really clear, to enter the void. And it's occurring at 24 degrees of Gemini, so pretty far progressed. This is actually the third decan, which corresponds to the 10 of Swords, which to me is like, we're getting laid out. We got nothing left. That's, for me, it's like, empty it all out. It's like that Nick Mulvey song, Give It to Kali, where there's a voiceover from Ram Dass, I believe. And he's talking about like what it's like to work with Mata Kali, and it's like, don't tease her. Give her everything you've got. Don't just give her a little bit. Give her it all. Dump it all out. Get empty. Right? And I feel this especially with the mind, is like we actually really need moments like this to just get empty, to clear the whole slate of the conscience. And I was feeling that a way to ritualize the new moon in Gemini in particular is to just do a brain dump. Like all the stories, all the beliefs, all the narratives that we've allowed to run through our circuits for God knows how long. Dump them all out. See them on paper. Like clear the mind. That's your tabula rasa. That's where the magician creates from. Whatever's going on, whatever you're allowing to run through your circuits. That's what actually is the power behind the magic wand that you wield with your will in the world. So in ritual practice, actually emptying out the mind, to do that ritually is very powerful. It's like clearing the energy, clearing the fuel through which we wield the wand and make shit happen in our world. If that's all clogged up, if that channel is all clogged up with these old beliefs and narratives that are running through the circuits, that's what will manifest when we try to make things happen. That's where we're creating from, is what I'm saying. And so clearing the slate of the conscience, emptying out in that way, helps us to get really clear also on where we're creating from, what we're allowing to run through our circuits. So on Sunday, I think I'm going to do this after a full day of ceremony. It's just like clear it all out. Dump the mind. All the stories we have, all the doubts, fear, shame, guilt, hopes, desires, visions, whatever it is. Like if you want to organize it, do so, but you don't have to. In some ways, it's like get empty burn it even, like just empty it out, clear the mind, and then see where you're creating from. This is, in my opinion, also a really good way to prepare for Mercury retrograde. So we're not just like fumbling around in our own conscience and like all of the weird bumpy stories that make us feel trapped and overwhelmed. It's about time, if I do say so myself at least, for a little clearing in that way. And I think it's part of this threshold moment that the new moon presents us with, right? We've gone through so much since the beginning of this year, this calendar year. There's been so much change and upheaval and dysregulation, and at least in my system, number one thing to reflect the overwhelm is the mental activity. The mind wants to understand, and in the face of uncertainty and change occurring kind of constantly, it's not possible in many ways to pin something down and get clear and let ourselves get still. And so it's an opportunity to actually like soothe and clear, like find our center again, right? Find the eye of the storm and come back to ourselves and say like, what is actually here if I let myself get still? And I empty out all of the surface level, the chitta vrittis, right? The waves on the top of the water in the mind. All of those tremors that are really just survival mechanisms of the ego, like trying to grapple with uncertainty, trying to understand what's happening and which way is up and what do I do, right? That is a very normal response that the human mind has to change and disruption. But it's not helpful most of the time to actually getting to where we want to go and moving from a place of center rather than moving from reactivity, which is a constant practice this year. Like really coming back to center again and again. So we're not just reacting to, the embodied experience of change and uncertainty. It's in our best favor to learn how to respond. And in my experience, that comes from being able to have access to my center. Only then can I actually respond from a place of choice rather than react from my unconscious fears or whatever else, right? And so I see the intelligence of this new moon in Gemini being the threshold point, being like the vestibule, as I'm always talking about, between the first half of the year and then whatever is to come. We've moved through a big wave of reformation, I'll call it. May we not mistake deconstruction for construction or for destruction, right? May we not mistake deconstruction for destruction. That's the work of Shiva. And so all of that churning, we take a moment to pause, empty out, get real still, and then actually move, hopefully with curiosity and receptivity through whatever's to come. That's really the boon of it. It's not about controlling the situation. It's not about suddenly seeing what the hell's going on. I am not making any promise. That's not the point. To get still is so that we can actually be in our center to see and respond clearly to the circumstances at hand. Not to control them, not to have answers, not to figure out, aha, now I get it. I don't think that that's actually available to us right now. Kindness to our constant desire to play God. It feels safer that way. Uncertainty doesn't feel very safe for the animal body and the ego, right? That wants to identify with what's happening. So the trick is like, if I let myself get still, I can actually just meet the moment from a place of presence and curiosity. And the inquiry of like, what's this? Not like, I don't know what this is. That's very different. The latter feels like kind of common right now for us to be like, what's going on? Everyone I talk to is like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know, but I've also stopped trying to figure it out, as hard as it is to just like lean back a little bit and bear witness. That's the only thing that seems to make sense for my system and not dysregulate me. And there's a difference between that conscious observer and passivity. There's a big difference. Consciously moving from a place of inquiry of like, what's this? How do I want to respond to this? Noticing what comes up when circumstances of change or disruption arise. What's going on for me? How do I want to move from my center to respond or participate in this, right? That's an active process. Avoiding, I mean, like, I don't care, I'm not going to look at it, I'm just going to dissociate and do something else and not actually, like, be in inquiry around how I want to respond. And just, like, yeeting off and avoiding that's different. That's not what I'm making a case for. I'm making a case for, like, a conscious dialogue with our circumstances, rather than the other, which is just reacting and freaking out and getting overwhelmed constantly, and then that compounds in our system. And that's not helpful for anybody, because then we're usually just reacting from very familiar fear-based responses. And that's just going to keep perpetuating the same experience in our being, right? And so the new moon in Gemini itself is like an opening and an emptying out to say, like, okay, if I let all of those mechanisms and stories that run through my circuits, the fear, the shame, the guilt, whatever it might be, the doubt, I feel like doubt's a big one right now. And I let myself get still. And even, like I said, even the desire, what I think I want, what I think I'm moving towards, let's check in. Is that still the case? You know, it's like, if we really clean the slate, what actually has energy? What has weight to it? When the slate's that clear and we write one thing, something we desire to move towards, etc., it has a lot more bearing, it has a lot more power behind it. It's not, you know, getting caught by all of these competing narratives and stories and past fear, doubt, etc. The weird, big, murky stew that is usually our consciousness, right? No shame to that. It's just like, it's conscious work. So many wisdom traditions talk about this. I know that this is nothing revelatory. It's just like a good moment for practice, you know? And I'll leave you with this. I shared this on the podcast too, but, you know, over the years, there's a prompt from beloved Brené Brown that has changed my life. This simple little prompt. And it's something that she used to do with her son, which I think is just so brilliant, to like give those tools to your children. But it's a prompt when the mind is racing and it's got all this murky story territory. You write out, the story I'm telling myself is, fill in the blank. What are the stories that you're running through your circuits? This could be your Gemini new moon ritual. Empty it out, right? The story I'm telling myself is yada, yada, yada. Write it all out, get it out of your system, and then take a moment, sit back, just observe that. And then ask, okay, is any of that true? The story I'm telling myself is this. Is that true? We fact check it. And it's a really beautiful, kind of sterile, but also helpful, like witness observer state to be in around the machinations of our mind. And I actually really think that doing this, either like journaling, I think writing it all out to see it on paper feels important for this new moon moment. Maybe even something we can come back to or burn, whatever it might be. Especially knowing that the Mercury retrograde is soon to come. Or you can do this with other people in your life and like be witnessed in the stories. Because when you're actually speaking something out loud and you have the self-consciousness of like being witnessed by another, you can hear yourself more clearly and differentiate, is that true? You know? And then you can laugh and like take it lightly and not take yourself so seriously. That is the work of the trickster. We become the trickster. We find ways to laugh at our own folly and humility. That place where we're being humbled is where we can really start to play and enjoy ourselves a little bit more. I say this as a very grumpy little kid who took everything very seriously and still do. It's good medicine to be like pushed out of my own way by the trickster. It's the best medicine for me. I hate it. It's so good. So I'll leave it there. Enjoy the new moon in Gemini. Again, if you want to listen to like the full breadth of what I shared about it, it's on the Altar of Stars on SUBSTACK. And I just want to say, if you've made it this far, I am going to be opening up a very special invitation to our next mentorship cohort if you want to study astrology with me. And I'll probably share a full video just talking about where I'm at with the work, because I'm always changing, the work is always changing, and I'm at this place in my praxis where I don't want to compartmentalize parts of my life and cosmologies anymore, which means bringing in even more threads of animism and ancestor work into how we relate to and carry the framework of astrology. Because to me, it all exists in the same thing. Like that's all part of the same world and praxis. So I'll share more on that soon, but I will link it in the show notes if you're interested in taking a peek at what's in there, what's cooking. Because especially with, just the state of things right now and wanting to really call in aligned community, like wanting really the desires to do this work together. We have to, in my opinion. I'm not interested in this hierarchical design of like, okay, the person who's leading the mentorship group has all the answers. That's so far from the truth and how I function. And in leading this mentorship group for the past few years, I have learned so much from the communal wisdom and from holding questions together, especially around the shadows, like the colonial shadows that are embedded within the astrological framework and how we want to get at that so that we don't just perpetuate them in our interpretations, right? Because the colonial history of astrology lives deep in our bodies and in our collective psyche, but it also then lives in our understanding of the framework, in the interpretations that we inherited, and then how we read other people's charts. And so I want to interrupt that. And I don't have the answers as to how to do that, but I have some thoughts and some questions. And to me, that's where the work begins. That's where we do it together. It's like liberating our own astrological praxis, and really envisioning a framework that serves where we want to go with the world as it stands. So I'm going to open the doors on the Benefic Conjunction, and they will close at the summer solstice. And so that's like less than 2 weeks of open doors at a reduced rate. And from there, we prepare for the journey ahead. So again, all the details will be in the show notes. I just want y'all to know that that's happening. If you're interested, obviously reach out with questions. And I'll post a whole other video talking a little bit more about, how I've held the mentorship cohort in the past, how it's looked, what to expect, and also how it's going to be different this time around, because I'm committed to it always being different and growing with the world as it changes. So, all right. Enjoy the new moon, my friends. Much love, and we'll see you next week.